Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 237 of Hobby Hotline. Cousin Tony here, and we have a star-studded panel today. First up, the original cousin John Newman. And John, how you feeling before I talk to
Good,
the other
good.
guy?
This is I'm pinch hitting for Moynihan today, so I'm jumping in the co-pilot seat, and I'd always, it's like when you ride with somebody, maybe you haven't ridden with them before, and you don't know their driver, and you're nervous. I'm not nervous because I know you're running the show, and we haven't done this in a while, so this
Yeah.
is pretty cool for me, and last minute, but I was on the bench, and the manager said, "Hey, man,
He's like,
grab a helmet and a bat and get in the box." So here
yeah,
I
for
am.
sure. And a guy I'm no stranger to. I can't shake this guy, but here he is. My mailman, your mailman, as I always say, the people's mailman. Oz, how are you feeling tonight, brother?
I'm feeling good. Not sure if you can really hear me well. I'm having a little technical difficulties. We're gonna try to power through it. My laptop just took a crap, so we're gonna see. Working on my phone here and some earbuds. Hopefully, it does the job.
Yeah, no, we
Well,
got you loud and clear.
well, you know what they say: the mailman always delivers. So
There
you
you
still
go.
you got it done either way.
Yeah, no
Absolutely.
matter what.
So, as always, the stream to call in is the link to call in is at the top of the chat. So feel free to jump on there and join us. We always appreciate any type of interaction. Fellas, before I get to the first topic here, Logan says, "What's going on, hobby hotliners? Foul ball, five ball. Hey guys, and the hobby Yoda, Mr. Rich Klein. Good evening."
There he is. There he is.
Yes, good
Rich
evening
is
to
the
everyone.
uncle. That's Uncle Rich. We
Uncle
got
Rich,
cousins, and then we got Uncle
the
Rich.
whole family reunion up in here. And US Sports Car says evening all. So guys, I wanted to recap. Last night there was a game, actually over the weekend as well. Real quick. So last night the men's championship to 2023 NCAA basketball title game was held, and UConn defeated San Diego State 76-59. So basically, this weekend, two records were set. First, the men, it was actually 14.69 million viewers, which is an all time low. And we'll talk about the women here. And the women, the women's side, LSU defeated Iowa 102-85. Conversely, they set an all time high, 9.9 million viewers, and hitting as high as 12.6 million across platforms. So, John, I just wanted to get back to you first. This isn't your daddy's NCAA tournament anymore.
Well, listen, think of the Final Four, right? San Diego State, UConn, Miami,
Mhm.
and FAU, right?
Right.
No one. Let's be real. No one had those four teams. Maybe you had one, right? Maybe if you're a UConn alum. I mean, this isn't even. I don't even want to say what I was about to say. This is not the UConn of old, but I can't really say that because they won every game in this tournament. I think that's the first time in history that the championship team won every game by double digits,
Yep.
every game. So I can't, I was going to say this is not the UConn of old, but maybe they're better. But they just got hot at the right time. But no
Mhm.
one, no one picked this Final Four. I did. Me and Danny did a Final Four on Menches. I got zero teams. I had zero of these four teams. I'll admit it. And I think a lot of people probably could say similar, where they maybe had one. But if you had two of these teams, you did very well. And
Yeah.
but there's I kind of like that, right? Because traditionally you always have your powerhouses: Duke, Kentucky, Michigan States, and those teams. And sometimes it's nice to see. I was rooting for FAU and San Diego State just for the fact that they've never won it before, and here they're a win or two away potentially. So, I like that there's more parity now with the NIL and the transfer portal. Really, I think those powerhouse days are kind of over. Not that they can't win again, but I think the field's wide open more than it ever has been before.
Yeah.
Guys, real quick, I've been hearing about this portal, and I haven't really been going with college this year at all. I've been snoozing on that. I've been all NBA, so I'm not really hip to all this portal talk. What exactly is it?
So basically, go ahead, John. You got it.
I'll make it's years ago before the portal, it was almost impossible to get out of like your school and your commitment.
Right.
It was really a pain in the you know what. And then they came up with the portal, and it's free agency for college athletics is what it is. You don't, and I like some aspects of it. I think they need to make some more rules with it. But now, hey, you don't like the coach, you didn't play enough, I'm out of here. So you can just put your name in the portal, and you can basically open up your recruitment again, basically, and say, I'm going here, if they'll have me, and that sort of thing. So it's free agency for college athletics. I think they should make a little more rules pertaining to it, but that's really where the landscape is. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm sort of in between. Like I the old argument was like coaches can pack up and leave and take a new job. Why can't the kids, right? Or if that
Yeah.
coach recruits a kid, a coach recruits us, we go, we commit, and then he leaves the next year. We got to stay there, right?
Yeah.
So that's really kind of what the argument was, where it kind of was born from. I think they need to attach some more rules to it, not make it sort of the Wild West where the coach yells at you one day and you're pissed off at him, and then you're at the transfer portal the next day. I think that's a little too easy, but that's really the in a nutshell what it is.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, basically. Real quick. So this is kind of my point here. Logan said they played the NCAA championship last night. So that's the thing. So I actually made a note here, all-time low. Okay, yeah, it wasn't Duke, it wasn't UCLA, it wasn't, one of these blue bloods, but it was also a 9:30 tip on a Monday night.
Yeah.
Whereas the women's game was a Sunday afternoon, everybody's kind of home. By default, a lot of more people were going to watch, which, I mean, obviously, the numbers were up. So I'm thinking, being on a Monday night and having UConn's a household name, but obviously San Diego State in hoops is not. So,
Yeah, and the game was, it was kind of over as soon as it started. There was really no, I mean, I think they got it at one point down to 5, but there was really no, threat from San Diego State. And, you told me to watch it, that we were going to talk about it. Like I said, I didn't fill out a bracket this year. This is like the first time I've never filled out a bracket. Wasn't really aware who was in the Final Four. So I watched last night, and dude, by halftime, I'm out. I had to force myself to get back up. And when I do get up, it took like 5 hours to halftime and all the ads and everything for them to come back out onto the court. I'm like, and I text you, Tony, I was like, bro, it's going to take like 5 hours for these guys to get back on. At least it felt to me. I don't know if it was just like I was tired or what, but that's how it just felt to me. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. Except it's when you get those teams that aren't traditional powerhouses, and it just kind of it was a weird game, and it was over early. UConn kind of dominated, and San Diego made a run, but it was never really in question. I just wanted to get to this comment here. U.S. Sports Cards. I think the Gamblers like the big time men's team in the Final Four, and the women are just on the cusp of taking the next level of attention and future TV money. I think you're on to something there. The women's game was up and down. It was 200 points scored. The girl from Iowa is hitting threes from like Steph Curry range. It was definitely as exciting, a lot more exciting than the men's game this time around. So
yeah,
Caitlin Clark's a household name now.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a women's basketball fan,
Mhm.
and listen, she has. I could be wrong, but I did a little research. She has one authorized card, and that thing's going. It's a Sports Illustrated for kids card, if I'm not mistaken, and that thing is not going very cheaply on the secondary market. So just think, guys, when those cards come out, or like Panini, Prism, WNBA, or whoever, who knows what we'll see now. Everyone's going to get on board the Caitlin Clark train and try to. That stuff's going to be insane, and I think that's great. And I probably won't get to own any because it'd be out of the budget. Hank Aaron rookie or Caitlin Clark rookie.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
but it's
Yeah. Look,
Oh my God.
speaking of the transfer portal, I mean, this is right. It's like U.S. Sport Car says you never know what you're gonna get. Apparently, we left the door
Hold on.
open, and
It's the cousins versus the mentions. What's going on here?
it's a tag team death match.
or the young guys versus the old guys, as I like to
There you
say.
go.
Oh, what I've learned is no, they're old too.
Yeah.
We just have
We
Yeah,
just
but
make
they're in
we
better.
just make this look good.
Yeah, they're in better shape than us.
We just-
I don't care what the birth certificate says.
we just have good plastic surgeons. Logan said, you see where he landed in the hobby hotline portal. U.S. Sports Cards. The NCAA president Charlie Baker said on Meet the Press Sunday they are opening up to the women having their own TV package coming soon. Yeah, it's it's on the come up, man. I mean that game did it outdid the men's game in my opinion as far as excitement things like that.
And I'll confess, with Danny in the room, Danny's like, "Hey, are you watch?" He texted me like, "Hey, are you watching the game?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "I thought it was Tuesday night." So that shows you where, that shows you where my mind was too. I did turn it on and watch it. We kind of watched it while we were just brainstorming stuff. But
Gotcha.
yeah, again, on one hand, it's nice to see some new teams, but I think the ratings and people, the money brokers, would probably rather see, like you said, Tony, the blue bloods and that sort of.
Yeah.
If they had their druthers, But
Sure. Yeah.
I just like to say officially good to be here.
Yeah, there you go. Welcome, Mr. Danny Black, to Hobby Hotline, sir.
Hey, got the
Yeah.
rings, can't see me.
You're just in time because aside from the NCAA championships happened over the weekend, but there was something else that kind of broke the hobby, I guess you could say, which I thought it was an April Fool's joke. I still think it was, but I guess not so much. So basically, guys, over the weekend, Beckett Grading Service announced they were changing their grading scale. What ensued was a flurry of activity, to say the least. I think there were pitchforks and torches and all those things. So, Danny, I'll go to you since you're fresh into the game. We'll put you to work right away. What's your take on this and your confidence level going forward with BGS?
I think this was, to say the least, a public relations problem. Let's start there. I feel that Beckett does have things to work on. I think they know that. I joked around the other day. I can't imagine the meeting where they sat around and said, we have all these things to work on. Let's not fix, any of the website stuff. Let's not worry about the marketplace. Let's not speed up grading times or, get the cost down. But let's just go ahead and rework our entire grading scale. And that became a high priority. To me, that's the biggest fail whale out of all this, is the priority level scares me. If that was really what they thought was either low hanging fruit or the most important things to collectors, that scares me more than the actual flop itself. I mean, listen, they got the sign wrong at the show that showed the Ford 9.5s when they were doing the scale. And they had to put a sticker with a 10 on there to make it the new Jet Mint. And then, poor David Aziz, it was so sweet. But, he did a video with Jeff Wilson after they reversed course. And David looked like he couldn't get out of Vegas fast enough. I grew up a kid of the Beckett era. The Beckett slabs, the regular Beckett 9.5, those are all legit with me. I believe even certain cards should be Beckett graded, and I love the subgrades, and they have that going for them. Whatever happened this week, and it happened to last year's national also. They just seem to, I don't know, get cold feet on the big stage.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, John, before I go to you. I've seen like crooked boxing judges leave Vegas slower than my man Beckett was. Man, but John, where are you at with this? I know.
I'll kind of say what I said, on my show. Like Danny said, I kind of grew up with Beckett and getting to know Dr. Jim, and you know, a lot's changed since he's no longer with the company he started, and you know, just a comedy of errors. I mean, it was like watching a Benny Hill episode. Just, you know, they're like Danny said, they're putting duct tape over a number and putting a new number. Like, if you didn't know it was real, you wouldn't think it was real. Like, you know, it's crazy. And I don't root against anybody. I'm not. That's not sort of my MO. Or I try not to be like that, right? And it's like this. I know there's smart people there because I know a few people there, and they're very intelligent. And so when I see this stuff happening, I just say, how is that happening? Like, who's calling a shot? You know, they got a CEO who's not really from the hobby. Is that a problem? I don't know. Could it be? I'm sure it could be. I don't know him personally, so I don't want to besmirch his job. I'm not behind closed doors. He might be doing a great job, but just when stuff like this happens, guys, it's a terrible look, right? And you're already starting to slide down that notch on the totem pole. This is the last thing they're running out. I'll say this, it might be dramatic, but they're really running out of time to fix this. Like, every time something like this happens, they slide lower, and their window of opportunity to get kind of back up there is closing. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I think, you know, Danny mentioned they're worried about the gem mint like scale. They need to get people sending cards to them. You know, you go on YouTube and you see people doing their reveal of their submissions. It's PSA, SGC, and even CSG. You can't. It's hard to find Beckett reveals on that are current. You can find old ones, guys, but they need to get their name back in the mainstream again. How do you do that? I don't care if it causes a little backlash. Go to $10 to $12. You know, I know it cuts your margins down, but people will sub to you. You'll start seeing yourself on YouTube again. You'll start hearing people talk about Beckett. They're becoming sort of an afterthought, at least on the grading side of the aisle, and it's sad in a way to see because of their their history, and they're running. I'll say it. That window is getting smaller.
Yeah.
Tony, can I throw a question at you?
Sure.
Do you think this affects the way people are going to buy and sell Beckett slabs now moving forward?
I don't. So, I think the people who collect those slabs, obviously they're very, I'll say this, the people who are still kind of collecting those slabs, buying, trading them, they're sure as heck passionate about it because they spoke up quick. So I think that if you're into, like, I'm on record, I'm not a big fan of that slab. So for me, I'm like, I'm just sitting back like, wow, look at this. But I don't think so. I think that people who are still, it's one of those things that you like it or you don't. I don't know if there's so many people kind of in the middle with that. So I don't think so. I really think that people just keep as is. And I mean, obviously the 9.5 is still, you know, for now it's still, you know, head of the table with obviously the 10s, but still, no, I don't, you know. So, but
Oz, can I sell you some Beckett?
At a 20% discount. Yeah. No, listen, man. Beckett, they can't seem to, you know, get out of their own way right now. I just think they need to just stop trying to reinvent the wheel and just go back to the basics. Got them, you know, go back to what got you there. When Dr. Beckett was still there, it's simple. You know, we got the subgrades. That's what, you know, everyone loves about Beckett is those subgrades and seeing exactly why you got the grade you did. You know, just keep it simple, stupid, the KISS principle. There's no need to, like I said, reinvent the wheel. Just stop trying to figure out a new logo and go with this and that. And it just, every time they try to do something, you know, they just stub their toe and it makes them look worse. It's like, just look, go backwards, just go back to the past. I guarantee you, if they just went ahead and cater to the people that are their audience and just do what they've always done and do it at a high level, reduce the prices, Beckett would come back to where they were. But, you know, by trying to just, you know, like you said, they have people in charge that haven't really been in the hobby and they're trying to outthink themselves, and it's just making things worse, man. Just take it back to the basics.
Yeah, I something's got to give, because it's just the one that I remember at the National, they announced a change in the slab. again, everybody goes nuts. They're like, never
And
mind.
yeah,
Like, how
and
many
that's the
times are we
thing.
gonna
If you're gonna do it, just do it and don't let the backlash. Because no matter what, like these people, they're so ingrained as to how Beckett, was. It's like any little change, everybody's up in arms. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just sometimes people are like, well, look, negative press is good press, but for some reason they're just like, yeah, oh my God, and let's erase that and just start all over. And it's just like,
Yeah.
stop, just stop and be confident in what you're doing, but just go back to the basics and what got you there.
Yeah. I want to get to some of these comments here before you go there. US Sports Car. I think having John, you kind of touched on this. I think having a non-hobbyist as CEO is really hurting Beckett. Every change in the hobby generates backlash at first glance. That means people care. First they blew the National and now the Mint. Now, they should pour their energy into their tech and data, launch the competitor to knock out card ladder and market movers, and it would have been better than this slab tinkering.
And
Yeah.
and on that last comment, that's from Dan Ryan. That is kind of going on. I'll just say that they are working on that. They just don't really advertise it. It's just, again, we can say CEO hobby. I think when you have someone that's familiar with the landscape, right, it always seems to work better most of the time. And the timing of mulligans work good on the golf course. They're not great. They don't work the same in the business world or the corporate world. And so
Right.
it's just egg on the face again, like you guys said. The National, now the Mint. Like it's like, I don't know. I guess it's easy for us to play armchair, BGS or Beckett, but they're right now like Ash just said, they're really their own worst enemy. They're not, they don't have to worry about PSA or SGC or CSG beating them. They're kind of beating themselves.
They're beating
right?
themselves. Yeah.
It's like a sports analogy, right?
Yeah, there's a
So,
pristine right there. Danny, let me ask you this.
Ooh.
Foul five ball says, I think the hobby is way overreacting. What do you think there, Danny?
I felt like that on the first announcement, and then the second announcement, and then I realized we were back to the beginning again. So don't we have to be overreacting by because now nothing's changed. So I think the bigger thing is now they said they're going to take a pause, make a new announcement in a couple of weeks. Obviously, I think everybody's very curious on what that ends up being. I hope that they get their slabs to a more universal size. I could not agree with Oz more that you have to have subgrades just be standard.
Well, they have subgrades, as you know,
Standard.
Dan, but they're going to charge you for them.
Right, and I'm not
Yeah.
paying for it.
Yeah,
I want them.
they got to realize they're no longer the premium grader out there that they're gonna be able to charge higher amounts for those things because people aren't gonna do it. So they're so used to doing PSA without it. Why the hell are you gonna pay more for BGS? And the reason I showed the 10 is like this is their bread and butter right here. This is what separates them from every other company out there. If you can get a pristine 10, that's the big boy, and they got to like they should be highlighting that. And like I said, and then taking everything and working their way down, not messing around with the grading system, but just making it real nice, smooth, lower your prices and stop trying to do more than you should.
You touch on something that I think is really hit the nail on the head, right? You said they need to realize they're not what they once were. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe internally they're in denial still, as they say, right? They're just not. We've all been guilty of that at one point in their lives or not. But maybe that's what's going on there is that they don't realize where they fall now in the pecking order. They still think it's, 2014 and not 2023. And they need to come to terms with that and make decisions based on reality, not visions of grandeur.
Yeah.
Danny, I have one for you here. Danny, I think if people are putting serious money to work in graded cars, I think this opened up a potential risk for all companies, and it should be disclosed. Meanings of grades may change.
Well, I think nobody ever anticipated that really happening.
Well, here we are.
I know. So maybe we need all sorts of disclaimers. Rich Klein. The problem is Beckett had 20 plus years of grading. Yeah, you guys have hit the nail on the head with everything, John and Oz. Your points about keeping it simple, focusing on what's actually important to the end user, making those grades get out to people so the cards will physically be in slabs for Beckett again. That could not be a more accurate point of a priority. And that's just getting back to what I was saying before. If we're prioritizing, let's grade cards. Let's not rename them.
For sure. And this kind of I touched on it. Hodges says, I really like my BGS 9.5 gem mint slabs. Was hoping to get some more on a flash sale from people overreacting. I didn't see, and I didn't see any that I liked. I was hoping. Yes. I really think that people who like it are just going to stay. Hey, this is what, they're happy now that I'm sure they were a little nervous, but they're probably okay now that things seem to be for now.
Well, I did speak to somebody who followed the auction Sunday night and said that some of the BGS slabs were going for less than anticipated. So that might have been Sunday night when everything was still very raw for people. I think even 48 hours later, everybody's calmed down a little bit. But I just thought that was curious. And as somebody who's got a lot of BGS slabs that are for sale, hopefully that's not a problem. Let me rephrase it. It's not a problem. They're worth more now.
For sure. And Uncle Rich says here, CSG changed their grading scale last year, and it's not bad with minimal issues. So I guess it can be done. I don't know. Yeah. I guess if I don't know.
Well, if you're gonna do it, guys, right? Stick when I'm sure they had board meetings and hey, this is what we're rolling out, this is what we're gonna do. I'm sure those board meetings took hours at different times or another, and then in a matter of minutes after Backlash, they did an about face. It just sometimes you need to just say, hey, we know this is not being received, but there's a reason we're doing this. Hang with us and sort of ride out some of that angst. But now what happens is you've proven like you will respond too fast to outbreak, and it's like the boy cried wolf. So now any decision they make, if the groundswell is loud enough, they might have to change it again. It's just they've opened up that precedent, and I don't think it's really what they wanted to really do.
Well, they probably real quick. I think they were thinking, okay, we can go ahead and change the scale, and then the 9.5 and the 10, and maybe people will start resubbing what they have to get it changed to the other grade, so we'll get more business that way, and it'll double up what we're doing. People are just going to try to get the new slab, the new label, and it just, I think they were thinking that way, and then when all hell broke loose, then it was like, maybe we should have done that.
So instead of trying to get new customers, they were just trying to get their old customers.
I think both, not back, but just easy money. Look, like all these guys that have the 9.5s, they can move it into a 10 or however the scale was. Yeah. If I was trying to do that and I knew there was going to be backlash, maybe, hey, listen, if you guys have that particular one, we'll do this one free of charge. We'll change the label for you, and then you can continue doing business. And I think that would have been a lot smoother transition as opposed to, hey, we're changing this. And, good luck.
But Oz, you just touched on something like they laid out no plan of attack when they announced it also.
Right.
So even if they would have stuck with it, what happens with my current card? Do I get a discount on regrading? Is there a full price? There was just so many unanswered questions on the original announcement to begin with that kind of got forgotten because they reversed it. But the rollout, I think that was some of the overreaction or frenzy, whatever you want to call it, is because there was so many outstanding questions. They didn't answer that in the announcement.
There you go. So you can, you put the application in to be the PR guy, and you can bring them back.
Well, at least they're getting a guy in the hobby. At least they're getting a guy in the hobby.
There you go.
That's true.
There you go.
So US Sports Car Sarah said when CSG switched to scale and the flip, they only charged $5 for the update from the old to the new.
There you go.
That's fair. Yeah, to throw at that's a good point there, Danny. To throw, okay, we're changing it and that's it, and okay, now what? Like without any of that explanation, that further added to the fuel to the fire there.
And being on April Fools didn't help.
Listen, I really I was waiting for them to just say April Fools, and it's just like all day, and it wouldn't stop. Like it just kept
That
going. I'm like,
Tony, honestly, that would have been a better way to reverse the
yes,
decision is to say, "Hey, it's April Fools," rather than say, "Hey, we listened to the backlash and now we're doing this." Right?
Yeah,
It's
I
more
would have
egg on
sure
their
as hell,
face.
yeah, I would have sure as hell used that as my, my scapegoat. Like, yeah, April Fools, you can't see
Yeah,
me. How's a
yeah.
joke, fellas?
It was right there for them to just be like, psych.
which you could even argue that's the third bad decision.
Yeah,
Right? The
Yeah,
first bad decision was the rollout. The second one was the reversal, and the third one was that they didn't use. They had it right there to say April Fools, and they
yes,
screwed that up too.
What do
yes.
they say? Third time's a charm. So now
Apparently,
we should have smooth sailing for a little while, hopefully.
yeah.
They had to
we
get out
we
of
got to
jail
get
free card.
listen, we got to get the mentions on the case. That's what we got to do.
Sure,
How
but
do you say snarky, huh?
yeah. So switching gears a little bit though, Topps basketball is coming back. It was actually right before we went on the air. Um, Rumors are starting to circle that Topps basketball is coming back for the 2023-2024 season. Obviously, I mean, it will be unlicensed unless something crazy behind the scenes is going on, but Fanatics is getting that license in 2026. Oz, I'll go to you first here because I know this is you're a big Topps basketball guy. You excited for this, man?
I am excited. It's gonna suck that the first. I mean, if it's coming right now and it's not licensed, how is that gonna, transfer over? But it's cool. This is something that people have been talking about once Fanatics took over and getting the Tops, and working with them, how this was going to transfer over to basketball, and that's just something. You think about all those Topps Chrome products from back in the day in the '90s, and I mean those are beautiful cards, and I can't wait. I can't wait. So that's good news to me. I didn't even hear that. This is the first I'm hearing of it, so I'm excited.
There you go, Danny.
I think the Topps name just kind of rings with people, especially if you collected, before they lost their license. I wonder deep down for people, I hate to say of a certain age, if they want the Topps name more than they want the logo for a year or two. Like, I want to see what these cards look like. If they do a really nice card, it's going to be real tempting to not, be partial to checking that out, especially at the prices that Prism's going for.
Yeah,
Yes.
true.
Very good point. Very good point. I know that John, before I go to you, and it also gives Fanatics some time to get their feet wet.
Good point.
But go ahead, John.
I'm a Brooklyn, New York kid, right? So Topps is always going to be near and dear to my heart. My heart almost stopped beating when that announcement came through that they lost the baseball license. Remember all the talk of some months back about Fanatics had acquired Panini, the deal was imminent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happened there? I mean, like, so how do we know? Again, all speculation, right? But we do that in the hobby. We're all guilty of it. I'm probably right at the front of that list, right? How do we know that there's not irons in that fire still, and they're just trying to get wording right? And like you said, Tony, 2026 is officially when they get the full licensing. But if they obviously acquire Panini before that, that will actually take place sooner. So I just wonder, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall there and wonder what's going on behind the scenes. Are they trying to still, acquire Panini? Is Panini resistant? What's going on? But they're going to make basketball cards nonetheless, even if they're unlicensed. They can still do technology that they own with refractors and all that. So if you can get past the unlicensing part, and listen, Panini baseball sells fairly well, and that's unlicensed. So I don't think it's a big deal. And basketball, as everyone in this room and probably watching and listening knows, is huge in the hobby, right? So people are going to buy it. I don't think the unlicensing is going to be a deal breaker for most. I'm sure you're going to have a few people say, I don't buy unlicensed product, but I think that's the minority rather than the majority. So it's still going to be Topps basketball, right? Those two words are going to be together, Topps basketball. And it's probably going to be very popular. You add in, Bronny James autographs. I'm sure people will be clamoring for those. I mean, Fanatics, Fanatics knows how to do stuff and roll out stuff the right way. Maybe Beckett should hire some Fanatics, some Fanatics folks away, going back to that topic. But Fanatics knows how to market itself and market its products, and it's going to be, whatever they release are going to be very popular, at least especially on the initial launch of it. So
yeah, go ahead, Danny.
I was about to say, I think the Wemby hitting the league certainly creates a little interest.
Sure.
Hey, anybody want to get back into basketball cards? I think we might have a 7'3" reason to put our toe in the water.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at what Fanatics can do with autograph deals and everything else. I just and John, I know you spoke to this on hockey with the Upper Deck and Bedard coming in. That when you have these key players coming into leagues, it affects card companies. They want to maximize. I mean, you can go back to the beginning of cards, but the '89 Griffey might be the greatest example, ever.
Yeah. That card brought people in the hobby that weren't in the hobby. That brought them in.
Still the number one graded card ever.
Yeah, and I think I'm not a basketball scout, but everything they're saying about the number one, who's going to be the number one pick, he's supposed to be transcendent, right? So we all know products are driven by the rookies that are in it.
Cousin John, what's his name?
I can't even say it. English is a pyramid. Wemba or something. I'll learn it. Listen, I got a little time to learn it. But rookies drive the products, right, guys? It's not even just basketball. That goes across all the sports, and so that's going to be right the number one factor, and then second will be probably the product itself. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if he's a generational player like they're saying, it doesn't matter. And then you throw on that Topps logo and the chrome cards and some refractors and some finest, forget it.
Yeah. See, so US Sports Card says here, it will be fun to see if Topps basketball cards might push some more creativity into the Topps baseball cards as well. Should be lots of fun. Kind of Danny said, Prism seems overpriced and tired to me. Are people over Prism? You guys think?
I think they're over. I think they're only over the price.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like Optic, like design wise. I like Optic, like visually. I like Optic better. Okay. Now we all know Prism usually command. If you have a rookie in Optic and a rookie in Prism, it's the same guy. The Prism is probably going to cost you more or sell for more if you have them. But aesthetically, I've always liked the Optic better, and I think Optics sort of closed the gap a little bit. Maybe it's that tiredness of Prism and that sort of thing that's helped close that gap. But people like a certain brand and it gets known for that. I mean, Prism's not that they're not going to lose that much luster, but it's. I like design, so I like what Optic does a little bit more.
Prism's a little cookie cutter for me, but So Covenant Sports Card says going to be a real buzzkill without the logos for me at least. Still going to be cool. Talking about the unlicensed, and we all know this guy. I think he knows a thing or two about rookie cards. Victor says, Public Enemy says, don't believe the hype. Long-term unlicensed product does not hold value.
You got to listen. I'm all for Public Enemy references. Man. That was
great.
Them and the Beastie Boys were my bands.
Nice. So let me see. I have a question from our guy Mookie here. Mookie Chilson says, Topps making unlicensed card is a bold move. What does that do to Panini sales? I would think they sell less because of this, or does it grow the pie? Danny, I'll go to you first on that.
Yeah, this is what I was wondering, are people going to be sentimental for that Topps name? I think Victor's going to grow the pie. Let's be honest. I don't think anybody who wasn't collecting basketball cards is.
Now, wait a minute. Victor, the basketball player or the rookie card specialist?
Victor, the rookie card specialist, if he had a card, would be a chase card.
Okay.
So he does have a rookie card. He's got his Sports Card Nation podcast.
I think that's an XRC. No, I think Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Wembanyama. Did I get that?
Wembanyama.
Wemby.
Yeah.
Definitely is what's growing the pie. Like I said, nobody who's wasn't collecting basketball cards is going to start breaking packs if it wasn't for him. In my opinion.
Gotcha. Okay, John, what do you think there?
It's basketball. It's gonna have the Topps name on it. You might not get a Sixers logo on it, but you'll have the Topps name. It'll be NBA players, right? It's gonna sell. Might it help? Here's a question: might it help in a retro effect like Panini baseball? Like, hey, I'm buying basketball unlicensed cards. I collect baseball. Maybe I'll now go back and think about adding some of those to my collection. I don't know, maybe on a smaller scale, but it's basketball, it's Topps. That's two big things in the same sentence, in the same product, I think. And then you got, we'll call him Wemby because I can't say his name,
There
right? You got arguably, a transcendent player. Add that to the mix. It seems like all the ingredients are there for some hot products.
I actually think that the old Topps will go up in value. I don't think the other unlicensed products will.
Well, it has, though. It has already. You mean even more so?
Yeah, I think people are going to get sentimental for it. I think once the new release comes out, you'll see a run on that also.
You tend to see that in the hobby when stuff comes out or players, or you see people going back. That's fair.
Johnny Bench cards went up when Adley Rutschman got promoted.
You making stuff up now?
Yeah.
Nope. Or is that
nope?
You got to fact check that.
You can
like,
fact
that's
check
that's like a politician line.
other than it's true. You're talking about the Orioles and vintage cards. Yeah, this is my wheelhouse.
One more from US Sports Cards here. Oz, I'll go to you first here. Does Topps making unlicensed cards undercut the long-term value of their licenses in the hobby, or no impact?
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to have an impact. I just think it's Topps, coming back, working out all the kinks, figuring out, again, don't be like BGS. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. If you come correct the way you did in the past, people love that nostalgia. They want to see the Topps chrome. They want to see the refractors, the finest. Just, again, keep it simple, stupid. Don't do anything dumb, and, work out all the kinks so that when you do get the license, I mean, that product is going to be immaculate. But yeah, just do that. I don't think it's going to undercut anything. But getting back to what Victor said, I do think in the long run, those are, it's tough because it's a new release. You know how they always say, okay, when 2012 Prism came, that was the first year. So does that make this then 2023 Topps, since it's his first inception? Does that make it a special release that people are going to say, oh, do you remember when Topps came back in basketball? And even though it's unlicensed, people will be like, that's kind of special.
Gotcha. So I think Mookie won the chat here because this is like
how about a Mike Lieberthal
yes
reference?
So yeah, I don't know how many times we get a Mike Lieberthal reference, but I guess with me and Oz on the show, that's like required. But that, sir, is fantastic.
He was pretty good.
Listen, Mike Lieberthal was solid. Mike Lieberthal was a solid catcher. Don't get it twisted.
I know he was on a couple of my fantasy teams, so
yeah,
that tells you how old I am.
Very solid player.
And guys, one comment real quick, guys. I'll make it short and sweet on Victor's comment about the Topps OTE was a flop.
Yes.
And I don't mean any disrespect to the players, but again, players drive a product, right? And so. Gotcha. A lot of those guys are not really, NBA level type players. So that's where the difference is, right? Is the checklist, right? And so Topps OTE to NBA is apples to oranges. But it's a great point by Victor that you got to be careful. Like, look what's in the product, right? Before you buy.
Yep, fair enough. So switching to the last one here, this was actually Oz. He likes to get Oz, I think, has a degree in psychology or just he's psycho. I don't know. But he asked me, I want to ask you guys, he goes, why do we truly collect cards? What's the psyche behind collecting these small pieces of cardboard? Is it selfish? Is it legacy, or to leave something to pass on to future generations? So, Danny, why do you collect?
All of the above. Um, I collect as an extension of my love for sports, and I collect cards on their own as fun facts on the back of a card about a guy who won a sixth grade spelling bee and might also be an all-star second baseman. I collect because, I got a Bo Jackson 90 score worth almost no money, but it's the coolest poster I had in my room growing up, and I can have that on a card forever. Every card is a different story to me. I collect for, I guess, personal reasons. That's why, growing up, we just called it collecting, but now it's got to be a PC. The cards I own that I keep all have special meanings.
That's fair. Before the other guys go, that bow card, you see a lot of now right now there's a bracket running of the most iconic card in the hobby. It's always the same 2 or 3 cards, and I'm like, why do they keep running these posts when we know what the answer is? That bow card to me. And again, it's not super valuable, but yeah, the guys, he's there with it bad. Like to me, that is an iconic card, and I don't think it gets as much love as it should. Because Bo was, man, if Bo would have not, it's always if Bo would have not got hurt. But that card is
Bo
super
knows
iconic.
a good card.
Yeah, he does. So, but John, why are you picking up all this cardboard and stuff every week?
Well, I was a sports kid, right? That's where it started. And much like Danny just said, right? I think, especially people of our age, I think it started with a love for sports. And then we found out, hey, our heroes and our teams are on cardboard that we can open a pack and have these in our hand. And once you found that out, I was all in, and then it became the stories behind the cards and how you acquired this, and I traded my buddy that, or I bought this here at this show. And so there's just so many different tentacles and stories. And I always say the tagline, right, the hobby's the people, but it also really starts with the cards. There is no hobby without the cards and the people behind them. And for me, I was a sports kid, and cards was just a natural transition. Like, hey, I want these, and my buddies wanted the gum more than the cards, and so I traded them my gum, and I got their cards and amassed the cards a collection pretty quick. And I just drank soda and got my cavities that way instead of through the gum. So and I think when you start, 6, 7 years old, guys, I think you're more likely to stay with it. You may leave, like the old stories, right? Went to college, took a break, and then a lot of times people come back. It's kind of the traditional hobby story. But for me, it's the sports and even playing them, and just to get as close to you can as the people you admire and watch on TV.
Yeah, it's fun. Go ahead.
Let me ask the mentions. If there was no value to these cards, would you still be in here?
I'd still do it, but I probably wouldn't be at card show setting up as a dealer.
Yeah,
to be
Okay.
obviously, right? But
Right.
that's the other thing. People ask me, can you be a dealer and a collector? Yeah, because there's cards behind me that when I do the show, don't go to the show with me. They're not even on premises. So you can wear both hats, and I even started that at a young age too. So I've heard people say you can't, you're one or the other. I disagree with that statement. If everything I own was for sale, then I'd say, well, I'm not collecting anything, right? Everything has a price on it, so I'm not really a collector. But that's my take on that.
Gotcha.
I
Real quick,
was about to say the cards had no value when I started collecting them when I was a kid, and so
Yeah.
my theory hasn't changed.
that's fair. U.S. Sports Card says, when done right, our hobby is awesome to do it with people or by yourself. The business side also allows you to do something with your mind and talents that isn't working for someone else. Yeah, you can get super creative, man, with the way you can go about this. And Oz, before I get to you, Mike Petty says, Bo hit 3 homers in the first 4 innings of a game, robbed Deion Sanders of a homer, and hurt himself in the 5th. 3 at bats, 3 home runs, then hurt. the bum. Yeah.
That's the kind of bum I'd like to be, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
man. That's like
listen,
you're
you know, you said something too, Tony. Like, you know, barring injury, he was going to probably have a Hall of Fame career. I think in most people's minds, he's sort of in their Hall of Fame in their mind.
I
Like
think
he's
so
that
too.
kind of he's that kind of talent. So you might not, you know, you go to the baseball, the football Hall of Fame, you're not going to see the bust or the plaque,
Mhm.
but no one will argue that the talent wasn't there to be in both of those places.
Yeah.
And you can't say that with a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys that sort of, he's not in the hall, but he's sort of in the hall in people's hearts and minds.
I
Yeah.
think I think that's fair. Go ahead, Oz.
No, it's true because, and it wasn't just in sports. I mean, his charisma, his commercials, you know what I mean? The hype train on Bo was ridiculous. So he had everything going for him. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys remember the commercials. He was riding bikes, you know, like
Yeah, he did
cross
like
country, like
yeah.
Bo
every sport,
knows.
like
Yeah, Bo
yeah,
knows.
yeah, it was insane, those commercials and the hype train that was. So for that amount of time, that period of time, like Bo was the man. Like you couldn't, and not to mention he was just a Greek god as far as physical status. It was unbelievable what the guy could do. And then you throw in Tecmo Bowl, and if you know you played with the Raiders, yeah, you just run it all up and down the field, no problem.
You couldn't play with the team. Like it was outlawed. You couldn't play. Like it was like if we play that like no, if you pick the Raiders, I'm not playing. Like it's just
Yeah.
not like you
I
can't.
was
It's not
running.
fair.
I was running with Bo Jackson once on Tecmo Bowl, and one of the defenders got thrown through my TV set. Like it broke my TV. I had to get a new TV. Just like threw someone off of it, it cracked the screen.
That's wild. So, foul five ball says I collect cars because I'm addicted to collecting cars. I've been addicted since 1986
Cheers.
when I was 8. I still haven't sold any.
Nice.
Which is
Appreciate
perfect.
that.
'Cause Oz and I always talk about that. We're, you know, we say, we just talked about it the other day on our podcast. You know, I said we're famous for not selling cars to fund our hobbies. So I said, man, are we doing it the wrong way? And Oz is like, no, because I get to keep all my stuff. It's like,
Yeah, it's like I said, I come down to my man cave and I get to see the stuff that I've been collecting for years, and it's still here. You know, I don't have to worry about selling any of my PC or the stress of getting inventory to sell to try to. I mean, I just I can't do that. I know you do that, John, and that, you know that's
Well,
a way of life.
I do it, but you know, I will say this: I do a lot less shows now in my older
Hmm.
age as than the younger version of me did. I couldn't keep up that pace today. I don't got it. I don't got it in me.
How stressful was that? You know, because there's some people that they thrive in that environment and they love the art of the deal and working that and being able to, you know, either
I
sell
think
cards or trade cards.
it is what you make. It is what you make of it. In other words, I had dealer acquaintances and friends of mine that were even doing more shows than I was, even during my heyday of shows every weekend. And I remember a very good friend of mine. I won't mention his name, not that, but just for privacy reasons. You know, we were set up together, and he's like, my wife says I'm never home. She's not happy. My marriage might be in trouble, you know. And he was asking me, "Hey, John, what should I do?" I'm like, "Well, number one, I'm not a marriage counselor, but you know, your wife is your wife. I mean, I'm not telling you not to do shows, but you know, which do you want to be married to?" And needless to say, to make a long story shorter, he really didn't slow his show roll down, and it was probably a few months later. We're at another show, and he held up some paperwork, and it wasn't. Let's just say it wasn't the dealer table contract. It was he was served papers, and he wound up getting divorced. And he had two. Here's the thing: he had two young kids at the time, and that's one of the things I did say. So I don't know how you feel about your wife. That's your business, but you got two young kids, and you got to, that should be first and foremost. And so, and that's one story I can tell you, and I'm not gonna for the sake of time, but I've seen other relationships get ruined from. So I did, I was about 2 shows a month even in my heyday. But there's guys that do it. Well, we see even in content creation, people every weekend are somewhere else. Number one, me and Danny talked about this, I think, on a Metro show. I don't want to do that. anymore. Like, even if I could do it physically, I don't want to. I like some weekends, guys, I like to have like nothing planned and just home doing whatever, a Saturday nap, right? And so those days of even 2 cards, I do 6 shows, about 6 to 7 shows a year, so 1 every 2 months. That's an average, and it is a lot of work. All my stuff's in alphabetical order to add to the degree of difficulty, so that makes it even a little bit trickier. But that's a good number for me. It still gets me kind of out there and keeps me busy, like Dan Ryan said. It's just another aspect. And I started working in a card store at 14 years old, so it's sort of intrinsic in me. So
That's fair. John, did you make it to the Syracuse Mets home opener?
that's a great question. It was on my list to do, and well, he knows he's in Syracuse. Q's card.
Yeah.
A little too cold, man. It was 46 degrees and drizzly. I know I've lived here long enough, like I should be used to it. I didn't make it, and I'm kind of regretting. I'm having like non-buyer's remorse because for those interested in prospecting, Brett Beatty went 4 for 5 today, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and a stolen base. He won't be in Syracuse very long. The Mets will be calling him up very shortly because their third base play has not been stellar at the major league level. And he was really sent down. He had a great spring, and a lot of people are like, why are they sending him down? And now he's showing that he's not going to be in Syracuse very long. So
that's fair. I know we're actually kind of fortunate living. We don't live in the minor league baseball mecca like Danny, but we all have access to at least we have AA here, and so it's kind of like I like going to those games. It's not family friendly, it's affordable, and it's pretty good time.
I went to Wilmington for the first time. What a beautiful ballpark.
Oh, to the is it Blue Crabs?
Blue Rocks.
Blue Rocks, yeah.
Close enough. Close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
And listen, talk about close enough for I know I've said this on the show, but the Syracuse Mets AAA Stadium, which is PNC Park, PNC Bank Park, is right. I'm pointing to it. I can see the lights when the games are at nighttime, and I can hear the PA announcer. So that's how close I am to AAA baseball, and it's nice. I probably should have went today, full confession, but didn't work out. Didn't go. My son had today off from his job, and then they called him in. I think had he not got called in, I would have probably said, "Hey, Jordan, let's go to the game." And so when he got called into work, I'll put it on my 23-year-old son. When he got called into work, I'm like, I don't want to go solo.
He had to go put some fires out at Beckett.
Yeah. Listen, at this point, you take a flyer on the kid. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, sure. So guys, before we get out of here, Danny, I'll go to you first because I think you have 648 shows. Let everybody know where they can find you and your content and all that good stuff.
You can find me on Hobby Hotline. You can find me on Card Benches. You can find me on Hobby Think Tank.
Okay,
that's it.
I think so.
I feel like Danny's everywhere, but he might
You're not gonna plug Hobby News Daily?
Yeah.
Well, you can find really talented writers and content creators on Hobby News Daily. I'm just kind of behind the scenes there.
Fair enough, Mr. Newman.
I'll make it short and sweet. Google Sports Card Nation. What I'll do, come up on that. Happy to be one of those writers on Hobby News Daily as well. And I do a monthly column on Sports Collectors Digest, somehow titled "The Hobby is the People." And I like to highlight some folks from the hobby and give them some shine. And where this is, as Dr. Beckett says, right, this is the greatest hobby you can be in, and happy to be a part of it. Happy to be obviously a part of this show. And man, I say we haven't done this show. We haven't been on screen in a while. So I had a blast. I had a real blast tonight. So anytime Mike wants to take off, he can just call.
You might not want to make that offer.
Yeah. He's still celebrating the Rangers whooping the Phillies, man. Sheesh. I told him at one point, I said, they got to stop scoring touchdowns against us because my goodness.
Yeah, what's going on? That pitching staff's not bad. Zach Wheeler, it's
Yeah,
early.
it's early. I
yeah.
mean, they typically what's strange is they usually come out of the gate pitching half decent and not hitting.
Not
They're
hitting,
hitting,
yeah.
but they're not scoring. So and then the pitching, I mean, it's just atrocious right now. So we'll see
And Bryce Harper's out of the lineup. I drafted him in my fantasy league, though. I gotta wait.
Well,
for
I
him.
hope
So.
He's when he plays, he's good. He's not bad. Oz, go ahead, sir.
Cousins Collectibles, Cousin Tony, Cousin Oz. That's our main thing. Obviously, here on Hobby Hotline, we also do the Wolf Pack with Rob Gerard, sports card therapist, and a couple other fellas there. Carmine's Cards, New York City Sports Cards, DJ Sports Cards, and who else am I forgetting here?
Mr. Ken.
Sports Card Lessons. So that's pretty cool. We just started that. So yeah, but our main gig is Cousins Collectibles. Check us out. We got our podcast. And then we do every Thursday, we do a live at 9:30, which is pretty fun. We say it's like Cheers. Everybody knows your name. You come in, have fun, give you a shout out. You can call in, and we touch all topics of the hobby. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, sir. So, and Saturday, don't forget Hobby Hotline, 11 a.m. This week, we got Adam Palmer, Victor Roman, some new guy named Mike, and some guy you might have heard of, some Dr. Beckett. So definitely check that out. Yeah, the doctor is in the house.
Well, the doctor is needed.
Yeah, I know. That's for it. We're running too late. We'll talk about that. There's probably somebody paging the doctor. Somebody at some point in the boardroom was like, "Is there a doctor in the house?"
Yeah. Do you think we should talk to Dr. Beckett?
Maybe.
But here's the thing, and he said this too, guys. He's still in contact with some of the folks there. There is communique going on, but what they do and what he might recommend are two different things, right? So
well, I guess we'll see as the hobby world turns. So with that said, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody in the chat, much appreciated. So I guess we'll see you guys Saturday. Adios.